Hey guys, Kevin Cawley here, CostSegKev. I am with Joe Wabick, personal friend and client of mine, managing partner at Kreshmore Group. I did a CostSeg study for him, or a couple.
At least one, yeah.
At least one, a few years back in 21 for tax year 22. Yep. And what I like to do is feature clients who have supported me. So we're here to learn about Joe and Kreshmore Group, what they do, how they do it, what they're looking for, maybe hear some cool stories.
Got any?
Kind of wherever you want to go. So with that said, do you want to just introduce yourself? How long has Kreshmore Group been around? And we'll go from there.
So we're, Kreshmore Group's a boutique investment bank and restructuring advisory firm. So been around plus or minus 14 years, basically born out of the recession and the restructuring world. So today we're a middle market focused transaction firm. So we do a lot of equity raises, corporate sales, on the investment banking side, debt raises, stuff like that, and the other sundry services like valuations and corporate or financial modeling and stuff. And then on the restructuring side, we help struggling middle market businesses either through the request or demand of their bank or private equity partner, or sometimes business owners have the right of mind to ask their accountant or attorney and stuff. So do a lot of budget, cash flow implementation or validations, business plan validation, situation analysis. We've liquidated companies, ran companies in distress in like a interim leadership type role, pretty much do everything but receivership. So
you mentioned the restructuring side. As you know, all my clients are like you. They have their businesses, they have their real estate portfolio. We were talking earlier before we started filming about how you oftentimes or sometimes help guys with real estate issues if a deal's going south. Maybe walk through what that looks like. Maybe some people are going to see this or could use this type of thing. So
it's funny, like I can give you the short answer or not, but I think
you got time.
Normally what ends up happening is on the real estate side, somebody comes to us on the restructuring, unless it's from an attorney or accountant that actually knows what's going on. A lot of times it's people just think they need capital. It's like, I've got a capital need, I've got all this pressure, I've got, monkeys on my back or whatever, we get a lot. And a lot of times they don't, or they're not ripe for capital for any number of reasons. And so a lot of times with real estate, there's a dislocation in the market, or there's, they lost, if it's, we've done a lot in retail, because obviously there's been some issues with retail pre-COVID, and then post-COVID, we're kind of in a double dip. But so a lot of times we'll help, if they're losing the property, we'll help figure out some sort of forbearance with the lender, put together a capital plan. It's not as simple as just refinancing with another bank. It sort of depends on the situation. If it's a one-off asset. For people with portfolios, it's actually a lot easier. We have a lot more tools to use. So deal with a lot of high net worth families that maybe have a couple $100 million in real estate. And then they can make a decision. If they're emotionally attached to a property for one reason or another, we can probably pay for it and figure out a way to leverage some of the other pieces that they have to get something done. Or sometimes it's just about mitigating whatever the personal guarantee is, if there's a personal guarantee, et cetera. So it's really looking at each situation in the context of what that individual or what that private equity platform has.
A group would come to you. Do you look at that stuff at no cost? Is there costs?
We're not super formal in the sense of like, you get a free 1 hour. For me, I probably spend anywhere from 1 to 3 hours just trying to figure out what's going on. I don't need to take on a project that we're going to struggle on. We don't need like the extra couple hours of billing, So for me, I'm going to get my arms around it. I'm going to figure out, is there a way out? Is there, what tools do we have that we can deploy for a good outcome? And then I'm going to tell them, I'm not going to give them a roadmap, but I'm going to say, we think there's these 3 or 4 options, or maybe we don't have that many. And here's the risks in those execution, because I'm not going to overpromise either. I know we'll get to it, but our business has grown essentially organically. So we're getting our business from people we've helped or from other professionals that we've worked with their clients before. So for us, certainty of execution's probably the most important thing. So we pay for that with time up front.
So A question popped in my head. It's not on here or planned, but you ever get someone wants you to look at a restructuring opportunity? It's just a bad deal. Like, there's no way out. You bought it wrong.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
How do you deliver that news? You're just like, hey.
Very directly. There's bedside manners. You know, we try to be sensitive. We're not going to be a jerk to somebody.
Of course.
But the best advice we can give is direct, actionable advice. And so there's times where it's like, hey, yeah, we're dealing with it right now. There's property. It was a good property. Tenant went dark. It was a triple net lease. Lease expired. Term of the lease matched up with the term of the note. So bad timing all around. It was about a year or two ago, so it was right when the debt market started to dry up. And again, now you have a vacant single tenant building, okay market, and the bank was shedding real estate assets. They didn't want to be in single family, or they didn't want to be in any single tenant real estate at the time. And so, you know, worked on some short-term forbearances, and the plan was, if we sell this thing now, investors are going to take a hit because we're selling a vacant building, and it's a beautiful building with a tenant in it, it's worth a lot. And so worked out some short-term forbearances, enough was enough. And we said, you know, basically at the maturity of or expiration of the final forbearance, it was, look, they've gone dark, the lender, they're going to do something at the end of it. And so filed an emergency bankruptcy just to save their, you know, essentially stop the collection proceedings at the time, or collection action, I should say. And they were able to secure a tenant, and, you know, sounds like a great story and everything. Well, now we're getting towards the end of the bankruptcy, getting ready to exit, and there is a ton of value. The bank, you know, conceivably can make it out whole, but it's not a refinance deal. They either have to put fresh equity in, or they just got to sell it and get what they can get. And the client wasn't, it was not in their range of options for that to happen. They thought that they went and saved this property, which to some extent they did save a few $1 million of equity, but it's, you know, there was a couple conversations of, no, you don't get it. You need to sell it. You need to sell it now. The situation's going to get worse with time. Sure. You've got until X date to exit, to pay off the bank per the approved plan. And so, you know, we're not going to lie to him or slow down the process. He needs to get out.
You got to get out. Do you ever try, you stay away from it, someone's got to get out, try to match make a deal or something and say, hey, you know, we have a client A who loves this type of asset.
We will. I mean, we will to some extent. We, you know, probably not for a fee. I mean, for us, we'll do whatever we can to fix the situation for the client that we're representing at that time. If we feel that there's somebody that we trust that was a former client or something, we might say, hey, there's a former client, they do this. And yeah, we've done that in the past, because to us, whether or not we've worked with them, is we work with lenders. You know, if a bank hires me, is the bank my client? Well, yeah, I'm still going to send the bank business, you know. Sure. And if anything, that's a better thing because I've got that relationship. So we'll do it, but we're very deliberate. I mean, when we put together a plan, it's measure twice, cut once, you know. So it's rare that we would just go in and say, you know, we're not kind of just moving pieces around from up here. We've got a pretty fully baked plan. Yeah,
and that's on the real estate side. You mentioned investment banking. I saw on your guys' site, again, just poking around, updated site, the mergers, acquisitions. So it's kind of a hybrid, I don't know, group. Can I say that? Like, do you have like, here's our real estate guys, here's our IB guys, here's our debt. Years ago, we were talking about trying to get debt on for somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. So debt kind of rolls up to me. We don't have anybody over that team right now. Investment banking, and that's within investment banking. Investment banking rolls up to Anthony Lazar. He's phenomenal, lifelong, private equity, and kind of sponsor type guy. And then real estate all rolls up to Mike Heisey, who's, you know, from DLJ, Credit Suisse, First Bank Boston, Wharton guy. So yeah, we kind of have guys that oversee those teams. I mean, on the restructuring side, we do a lot in real estate in general, whether it's capital transactions or if it's restructuring stuff. But on the restructuring side, I mean, most of our work is probably corporate restructure because they're broader engagements. I mean, if we're going in, we might be inside of a company for 6 to 18 months.
Jeez.
A short one would be, I mean, 3 months would be an extremely short engagement.
You going on site? You're, you know, like...
Yeah, it depends. I mean, COVID, a lot of what we do can be done remotely. We have to go on site. We're not like Six Sigma manufacturing guys. So we don't go and say, turn the wrench and do this. And, you know, if you save this person 4 steps, it means $30,000 a month. Like, I can go in and say, you're fat here. You're not making what you think you make. You have too much inventory. You have too much of the wrong inventory. You have more things like that. Do a lot of balance sheet work and then a lot of practical, strategic work, but no like really domain expertise. So.
I like the Six Sigma thing. I was thinking black belts when I hear the Six Sigma stuff. My business, as you know...
I think it's hocus pocus.
Yeah, I know. That's all. I didn't go to college.
What you do is hocus pocus.
I know. Well, how about this? Taxes are bullshit. I'll just say it. It's all freaking bullshit. And so I'm going to go, hey, the carpet's 5 years. Are you going to replace your carpet in 5 years? No, dude. It's all BS, right? But we all play along. So my business is kind of, you know, it's a sexy business, right? Hey, give me $5,000, I'll save you $100,000. Your business, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
You're there to kind of, guys are in trouble, right?
On the restructuring side, 100%. It's on a needs basis. Like, you need it like now.
Yeah, but still, they'll look at you like, thank God I had a resource like you. Any stories come to mind where they were like home runs where guys are like, Kreshmore Group, you know? IB side,
so
real estate side, whatever
we could talk about IB separately. It's just sort of like a different beast. I mean, the restructuring side, yeah. I mean, our you know, we were built off of those success stories. The reason we got into the investment banking side and the transactional side was there was guys that we helped 15 years ago that once they got healthy because they were coming out of the recession, there was issues, they trusted us. So it was, you know, hey, we had to get them interim funding when they were in trouble. You know, we had to get them interim funding to fix the problem that we were dealing with at the time. And then we had to get the interim funding out, so we would bring in some sort of a permanent partner. And then it was, you know, when it was all said and done, it was 3-4 years down the line, and maybe they wanted to sell. And you know, we got into the sell side business really because that was one of the stories, and we had done all this stuff for them, and they said, hey, we want to sell. We brought in 3 or 4 investment banks. Last bank left, they looked at us and said, what is it going to take for you guys to do it? We're like, hey, that's the one thing we don't do. We're just not set up to do it. We don't have the software, don't have the resources, don't have the databases, et cetera, don't have the manpower.
Yeah. And
they're like, we don't care. We trust you guys. I swear to God, we want you guys to do it. And so we ended up taking it on, and then that was 2018, 2019. And last year in 23 and 24, investment banking by revenue was our biggest line of business.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the pops could be good. I get that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah. But in terms of like slam dunks, I mean, there's been usually it's funny, they're always apprehensive to hire us because they're, you know, it's like, oh, your hourly rate's more than an attorney. We're not doing attorney work, we're doing other work, and we're also use an attorney maybe every day. You use us for a very short period of time. It's a necessary cost to get through it. People are generally thankful, even when the bank makes us come in.
I literally wrote down, so there's no attorneys at your group?
No,
yeah,
no, we don't do legal work. No legal work.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was curious. Anytime you hear sell side stuff, I think attorneys are involved, and
they are. I mean, we work with a lot of really great ones. You know, we're almost always working in conjunction with an attorney, especially on the restructuring side. There's a lot of legal issues intertwined. Obviously, on the investment banking side, it's legal intensive. You know, once, especially post LOI, the attorneys are doing a ton of heavy lifting. So
yeah. So we talked about a few buckets you guys are in: the restructuring, investment banking, mergers, acquisitions. I guess what I would ask is where, you know, in the past few years has Kreshmore found most of its success?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we focused heavily in the last couple of years on growing the investment banking side of the business. So we've been, you know, in a short amount of time, we've found some success. I know we made the Table of Champions on Axial a few times. You know, we've found a nice niche in the middle market, lower middle market, companies under 250 million in revenue that are in, you have retiring owners with no succession plan, and it's an underserved market from an institutional standpoint. So there's a lot of, Joe brokers or whatever out there just getting their arms around deals that kind of create some noise for people like us. But there's not a lot of true investment banks, full service, servicing that end of the market, because Houlihan Lokey, Blair, et cetera, they don't want to deal with a 15, 20, $30 million deal. It doesn't financially make sense. Whereas for us, I'm like, that's great. I got 3 guys on it, 4 guys on it. We do really well. And I mean, for us, that's a great deal. So we can give it all the attention. So yeah, I think that's been a big part of our focus outside of restructuring.
Very cool. So I got two questions for you real quick, since you followed that route. What's too small for you guys, if anything? So you mentioned the big boys, they don't care about 20, 30 million.
If it's like, if it's under $5 million, it's not how can I say it? We take each deal on a deal by deal basis. And the reason I say that is there are some industries that we may be willing to take a smaller deal in, because we can argue internally, we can position it as, hey, this is, going to be resource light for us, and we can run a skinnier process. I can't do like $1 million transaction and succeed in it. And my pricing also gets to be really costly too, because we have deployment fees and stuff like that, like other banks. So it depends on the industry and stuff like that, but we're not doing low $1 million deals type of thing.
Okay.
7-figure.
Got it. So. Yeah, but you have a look, and you'll shoot guys straight, which we already established, right?
And I'll pass them off to either another bank smaller than us, or to a broker that I trust, or something like that, and make sure that they're taken care of. Or I'll tell them, hey, you're like trucking companies a lot of times. Hey, if the equipment price is right, you're better off selling your assets, winding it down, collecting your AR. There's times that there's just not enterprise value there. Yeah. Certainly where they think it is.
Sure. I was a trades guy 11 years. I think we talked about it. I was a union carpenter.
Yeah,
11 years. A lot of guys, I left years and years ago to pursue this, but a lot of my buddies started other companies, pretty decent sized HVAC companies or electric. Yeah. Just from guys I deal with, like we had my collision center owner that you met. A lot of these guys are getting calls from pretty big PE groups. Yeah. Right? Pretty consistently. So like, to me, PE groups, the large ones, are swooping down. In real estate too, 100 unit deals, no one cared about, besides like some guys could syndicate. Now they're coming in. So these guys, company owners, get knocked on the door all day by the big boys, big PE groups. Why should they go with a Kreshmore over a large PE group?
Yeah, so it's fun, I don't know if it's funny. It kind of drives us nuts. Our biggest competition usually isn't other banks. Normally we go in and we're one of 3 at the most banks that people are interviewing. Our competition is the person that we've been dealing with, who's like, oh, I've got 2 offers. These guys are kicking the tires. We've got IOIs in. We're working with them, and it's just an endless process. So the market's changed in the last 5 to 10 years. These private equity firms, and it's not just big ones. It's a ton of independent sponsors who they may not even have. If it's an independent sponsor, they don't have callable capital, anyways. Sure. They're going in. They're cold calling. They're tying up deals. And then they've got, there's no one on the client side managing the process. So we run what we call a competitive bid process. Our process looks a lot like most other banks. If you were to go to Blair, it would look the same. And our goal, and the way the way we position it to clients, because I think clients sort of understand the real estate world usually because they've owned a house or whatever. If you go and you sell your house, somebody needs that house. Maybe they don't like your house specifically, maybe they don't, but there is somebody who needs a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 3-bath house in Downers Grove or whatever. And even if you had the worst broker in the world, if all they did was put a sign out front, you would get calls, 100%, because people are going to drive past it. Why? Because there's a market. There's a market for 4-bedroom, 2-bed houses in areas that people want to live. The market for companies has to be created. yes, there's people out there looking, we get calls all the time, oh, we're looking for an aerospace company, less than 100 million in revenue, but everybody is. But how do you find it? There is no for sale sign on the front of businesses. In fact, 99% of sales, the business owner doesn't want anybody, mostly, namely their employees and customers and competition, knowing they're for sale. Sure. So we need to go create a market. We do that by analyzing the business, creating a financial model, putting together buyer lists. The buyers consist of people that we've transacted with in the past, consist of people that we've worked with in the past and haven't transacted with, and consist of people that are new to the market we've never dealt with.
Yeah.
And we're putting together materials, creating an audience, with all these with these different buyers, doing direct outreach, soliciting offers, comparing and contrasting offers, analyzing them with the client, figuring out whatever. A lot of times it's rare that it's 100% price driven.
Right.
And there's a lot of pitfalls too, and even some of you see a lot of guys that use their corporate attorney who's been great for them for years, and they do a great job. But when you get to a decent size M&A transaction, there's a lot of nuanced issues that the guy who does the family will and who does your operating agreements and knocks those out of the park, maybe dealing with a purchase and sale agreement and the employment contracts and stuff like that is gets to be a little too much. So we go in and we manage that process, and we just wrote an article out. I think it goes on LinkedIn next week, but we feel the only way to maximize sale price in terms in general is through a competitive bid process, and having an advisor that does that for a living.
Sure.
On your side. Yeah, it comes at a cost, 100%. So does having a real estate broker, and
True.
Your house technically could probably sell itself.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I like that. You mentioned one thing, like how do you find, you put a sign in front, people are going to drive by, you see it. So these guys you're talking about, because you mentioned, I'm the owner of a 50-person HVAC company. I always go to HVAC, I don't know why. But
it has been a hot area in all honesty.
Maybe that's why.
Commercial
I don't want anyone to know that I'm pseudo interested in selling. So how the hell are you finding me, if at all? Like is someone referring? So no one here is doing cold calls, right? Or are they? I don't know.
We do some direct outreach. We started a business development program, but it's a lot of warm leads. It's a lot of people that we've dealt with and have 1 degree of separation from. That's newer. Most of it has been through people are talking amongst their buddies, which is probably the least common. A lot of times they go to their accountant or their attorney and, hey, we're getting up in age, kids don't want to join or don't want to be in the business. What are our options? And we'll give them a free assessment too. Like we'll do a ton of free work up front to tell them, here's what a sale would look like. Here's what we think we're not going to do a valuation for them. We charge for those. Sure. I can tell you within 10% what I think the deal's going to transact for without spending 50 hours on evaluation.
Sweet. So you look at that.
You just don't have all the information to support it. So.
Yeah. Cool. All right. All good stuff so far, my friend. Glad to see businesses rocking. As you know, if businesses aren't growing, they're dying.
Yeah.
What would be the next phase of growth for you and Kreshmore Group?
So we focused the last couple of years just on kind of tuning in our business lines that we had and putting in really good people in the right positions, and that's why we've had a good short-term run the last few years. But we recently, at the end of last year, opened up an office in Naples. So we always wanted to be a multi-state firm, multi-city firm. We wanted to do really well in Chicago, and we've always been nationwide in terms of our customers, but people in Chicago know us more than people in Boston, are going to know us just because our attorneys and stuff like that are here. So we spent a lot of time in Southwest Florida. We think it's a great market. It's not Miami, and that sort of it goes with the ethos of our company too. We're the guys from the southwest suburbs of Chicago. We're not the guys from downtown. That's always made us different. It's always brought up the question of why. So I don't know, just kind of it's a place that we've already done business in, and we're excited, and hopefully end of this year, next year, we look at another office or something. So
sweet. Yeah. So I think we mentioned previously the group I'm with is now PE owned.
Yeah.
So they're turning us into a platform. So we were just a
When
cost.
they want to sell them, you know.
Yeah.
Might be too big.
I read an article.
No one's too big for us.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Platforms over pipelines was an awesome article I read from Alec, sent years ago. And it was so this PE group who got us, they bought a group that does research and development tax credits.
Who was it?
The private equity group's called Align Capital Partners out of Dallas.
So you guys were bought by Alliant.
Yes.
Okay.
Now they're adding companies to our platform, right?
Yeah. Alliant was doing the 170 or they were doing the R&D tax credits. They did some CostSeg, I thought, and they did a lot of the ERC credits, right?
Sure. So check it out. It might be a different one.
Is it not Alliant Group?
Oh, Alliant Group's massive R&D tax credit.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm confusing the two.
So yeah, this is Align Capital Partners,
Okay.
a true
Okay.
PE group. I think they've done dozens and dozens of acquisitions.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
we're going to be their first specialty tax platform.
Nice.
So we were the largest third-party engineering-based CostSeg firm.
How many people?
There's 250 of me, sales guys. And then there's, I don't know, probably 40 people at corporate, Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Is where it's headquartered?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I go once a year. It's love going down there. But I was going to ask you, my questions is new lines of business. I'll get to it.
Yeah.
I'm glad they added the R&D tax credit for us, 179D energy efficient credits, and then this great partnership called Green Zip Tape. Believe it or not, it's a drywall tape. The only one approved by the IRS when you use it on non-structural walls. It will turn the wall itself, the paint you put on the wall, the studs holding up the wall, any plumbing going through the wall, any electrical conduit running through the studs, all on the 5-year property. We'll go into that. We're going to stop there, which is nice.
Yeah.
You can't do we don't want 30 services, right?
Yep.
So you do a handful of things, I think a perfect amount. Maybe you want to add some things. Any new lines of business you're going to be opening for Kreshmore, you want to just...
We are hyper-focused on equity, on capital transactions for middle market companies. We think that that's the right place to be, and we're really excited to be in that place, especially in this upswing in what we think is going to be an upswing in the M&A market. And restructuring, we're really happy with what we do. I think we'll continue to work. I think we'll continue to hopefully grow our CRO practice and stuff like that. And we're looking for maybe a middle to senior guy to kind of oversee some of those engagements. But right now, we're looking at focusing on really just new outreach with the business development team, growing Southwest Florida, and knocking it out of the park with our current services.
So now that there's been a shift in the political atmosphere, do you think that will be a good thing, bad thing for Kreshmore? How do transactions look moving forward compared to years ago?
Yeah, I think specifically in reference to the election in November with Trump winning in a pretty distinct way, especially with retaining the House and the Senate, or retaining the House, winning the Senate. The general consensus is going to be, it'll certainly be more accommodating to M&A, less regulation, which means bigger transactions should go easier, less regulation on banks and stuff like that, which means capital starts to flow better. So for a number of reasons, M&A activity, capital activity in general is expected to pick up and when there's a resolution of an election in general, it should be a better thing than when you're in the election year, because at least you have some certainty as to where the country's going. When you're in an election, especially if it's expected to be a tight election, nobody knows what's going to happen. Everybody's upset. Whereas after the election, everybody generally knows what's happening and only half the people are upset.
So it's funny, dude. I'm going through it now too. So Trump with the Tax Cuts Jobs Act and 100% bonus. Yeah. So I have guys.
It's 40% for 25.
40% for 25. You're good.
Yeah.
He's going to extend, but I have guys going, we have a lot of time. I'm not going to sign for the CostSeg today. I'm going to wait until, which I get too. It's all good. Luckily, I'm busy enough to where I'm not chasing that. And I got time to do stuff like this with you fun guys. But yeah, so I know what you mean. Now that he is president, there's a lot more certainty of how you can see things playing out. So well put.
And people start to make decisions based on that. It's just, election years are always odd for that reason. But yeah, Republicans, conservatives in general are going to be more accommodating to that. it's his Secretary of Treasury and Secretary of Commerce are both from that space, with Besant and Lutnick. So I think, I think people are pretty excited about it, to be honest. We'll see what happens with interest rates and inflation and stuff. I mean, there's probably going to be some short-term turbulence and stuff as he gets to where he wants to get. If he does half of what he says he's going to do, it should be a pretty great market, in all honesty.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped for that too. I got my notes here, a lot of things. One of the questions I asked, I'm embarrassed to ask, is I forgot how you and I got linked up together.
So I think it was Keith Orr from Kreshmore. So it was a CPA.
Sorry, Keith.
Yeah,
I forgot.
Eisner Amper now. Basically, I mean, Keith and I have a similar relationship. We've been buddies for a long, long time. But professionals, you're always trying to help clients, and so we're, finding people that do unique things above and, not just a transactional attorney and an M&A attorney, but we need somebody that's, who specializes in ESOPs or something like that, or
sure.
Not that we probably wouldn't use those, but regardless, trying to fill kind of our professional Rolodex so that we can at least make intros to clients and stuff like that. So yeah, it was all Keith. He's like, do you know anybody that does CostSeg's? And I hardly knew what they were, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome though, but it was him. So again, sorry, Keith. And they sold, you're right.
Yeah. And now they do CostSeg's.
I know, but luckily one of their main guys, this guy Steve, was sent me the most out of that firm, and he started
Liazzo?
Yeah.
He's off doing his own thing.
I'm glad. So now, that was where I was getting the most.
Yeah. Interesting. Is that how you got hooked up with him? Did you meet Steve first? Is that?
I met Steve. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or solicited by, or maybe he reached out.
Yeah,
to be honest, I don't know, man, because you meet so many people.
I know.
It's hard to keep it straight.
I know.
But I did have that down here, so I'm like, I gotta ask.
I'm bad with names, but I remember like specific events. It's bizarre, but yeah.
Yep. So Keith Orr hooked us up. We ended up working together. I don't know if you want to talk about that. We started.
It was funny because we got introed because it was something like, hey, do you ever got clients that need this? Which we could talk about that in a second, because we do. And again, it just makes us look good. If we go to a client who's got a couple $100 million in real estate, and obviously real estate, big component is there's some tax advantages to owning it.
Yeah.
And people don't, unless they're at a big firm and stuff, they just don't know that this stuff exists. We didn't necessarily know. Right. So the whole idea was that we would intro you to some of our clients, and it would make us look good and everything. You take care of them. And then we started buying real estate. And then you did the project for us up in Rockford in 21.
Yeah.
And I think we looked at a few others too, and it's been a weird time to buy real estate the last few years. So, but we're, and that turned out to be a bigger project than we thought. So.
When bonus comes back to 100, you literally have to buy real estate.
I know. What ended up, and the only reason we really haven't, we've been looking every year, and we bought some stuff, but we've, there hasn't been anything we've really liked, and we're not in that business. There's a lot of guys that go out and we, finance and stuff, but they're going out and they're cold calling strip center owners and stuff like that. You can get a good deal, but we're not. We're investment bankers by day. When we find something we like, we buy it and we hold it. And that's outside of Kreshmore. That's a family, group of buddies type of thing. So
the guys you're talking about, real estate is their business.
Yeah, 100%.
So they're hustling every day.
Yeah.
A lot of groups out there like that. And that's kind of my bread and butter.
And again, like a lot of our clients too, they own businesses and they own their own real estate. And so to have somebody like you in there, they've had the same accountant for like 30 years, and their accountant just does the best that they can, sometimes probably makes stuff up, who knows.
Yeah.
But they're buying real stuff, 10, 15, $20 million buildings. That's a huge deduction on a CostSeg.
Absolutely.
So
on a CostSeg over and above what it would be normal straight line.
And I wish I had something as useful as, it's so, at times it's like not hard for us to sell, but it's like, here, you should pay us this money to do these things. And we think, we know that it's worth a lot of money, but we can't really give them something. Like you do the quick analysis back of the napkin that ends up being pretty much what the number is anyways.
Sure.
How do you not sign up if you're somebody looking at that? Like it's going to cost you $20,000 to get a $400,000 deduction or savings. It's crazy.
No, it is. It is. I battle it a lot, and then there's a lot of mom and pops that are popping up in my world, which is
One-off
fine.
guys.
Yeah, one-off guys, and who knows if they'll be around in 3 years, and if you get audited in 5 years, now what? You know what I mean? So we're against that too, but I'm not too worried about it. I got great guys like you referring me business.
Your CostSegKev, dude.
I'm CostSegKev. So with that said, I say we go grab a bite.
Yeah.
Call it a day. We'll wrap it up.
Beautiful.
Awesome to catch up. It has been
man.
too long, and a few things we'll talk about at lunch too. So
Awesome, man.
thanks for having me at the
blast.
office, dude.
Yeah.